Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary, in which we take a light-hearted look at a serious subject. Every 2 weeks we look back through the stories of true crime to find an event that took place on this week in history. I'm your host Mark Decano, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello.
Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you can, and if you can't, you can always email us to stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk. And in appreciation of every 5-star review, we'll give you a shout out on a future episode. The date we're looking at this week is the 22nd of March, and in the year 1739 the trial began of the man who'd been arrested under the name John Palmer, but it turned out that the man in the dock was none other than the notorious highwayman and killer Dick Turpin himself. So Jed, what do you know about this man?
He had good sideburns in the 1970s TV adaptation. That was his main attribute. I would say Dick Turpin is another one of the... he wasn't in any way a hero or nice, but history and how we are remembering him has, for some reason, has dictated that we all think he's a lovable rogue.
Yeah, definitely.
Partly because of that TV show in the 70s called Dick Turpin. But that's the case, isn't it? It's like what were we talking about? And another one? Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
That kind of thing where...
I think Robin of Sherwood's probably another good example of that, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Where somebody or several people or just historians several years down the line have decided to turn him into something that was good.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not the hero he's been painted as. That came much, much later. He was a common criminal, realistically.
Sure, yeah. I definitely thought, mega, Dick Turpin. He's brilliant. But having a brief look at his little CV, I was thinking, well, how did I think he was any good?
Yeah, well, he was born in 1705 in Hempstead in Essex. He became an apprentice butcher. His father was a butcher. He apprenticed for a while in the village of Whitechapel, which we now know as the East End of London, but it was a village at the time. And after he married Elizabeth Millington in 1725,
yes,
he opened his own butcher shop in Essex.
Not another butcher.
Yeah. Now, as he grew up, he fell in with a gang called the Essex Gang or the Gregory Gang.
Okay.
You know, butcher. They're stealing deer. This is like 1730s now. They're stealing deer, so he's in a position, obviously, to cut it up,
yes.
butcher the meat and sell on the meat.
Yeah. Very handy. Yeah. He knew what to do with it.
So basically fencing.
Yeah, fencing the meat, basically. Yeah, exactly. But the gang found that rather than hunting deer, poaching deer, it was a lot easier if they just attacked farmhouses, break down the door, and steal everything that they've got.
So what do you mean? They would turn up, and instead of sneakily going to kill a deer, they just go like, right, we're here, I don't know, tie him up and then literally kill everything.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the typical activity, they'd attack farmhouses around London and Essex.
Overnight.
Typically older farmers. And the usual activity is they break their way in, but they beat the owners.
Sure, yeah, and then have free reign.
Classically, classic trope was they'd hold the farmer over the fireplace and basically until he yielded where his cash was hidden.
Rush to their chestnuts.
I for some reason I've got on my brain that they used, along the lines of that, they used boiling water as a kind of, like I don't know, they'd pour it on them or something like that. But as a massive deterrent, they would also have no qualms about chucking a. Is that true?
Yeah, well, it definitely did it once.
Right. Okay. Yep.
I mean, they'd cut faces with a knife. They beat them. There's an incident of a housemaid being raped, probably by one of the Gregory brothers. Oh, yeah. Turpin also was accounted as having beaten the farmer on his bare bottom with his pistols.
Gun bum.
Not a nice group of people at all.
No.
That's pillaging, isn't it? Really, it's just rape and pillage of country houses.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no heroes. These are criminals. They're like the lowest of the low. They're violent and unvarnished criminality about them. They beat up people and get away with like £30.
To be fair, it's quite a lot, but yeah. So was he part of all of this?
Yeah, oh yeah, very much so.
In the sense of, he wasn't just hanging around sharpening his knives to chop up, that he was like, yeah, let's do this.
Well, he got more money from housebreaking than from the butcher shop.
Right. Okay.
And he seemed to be quite zealous about it, but, by all accounts, by reading the history. He got more and more involved with the gang, and he was centre ground in the gang.
Right, okay.
By the time into the 1730s.
What was the kind of law at the time? Was it kind of... I can't imagine it was much deterrent, but I don't mean being hanged. I mean just the notion of any form of police I'm talking about. I mean, that wasn't the case, was it?
No, well, there wasn't any police. It would have been the soldiers, the redcoats, would have been dispatched. Again, no investigation, like we talked about really in the Burke and Hare episode, which was 100 years after this. There would have been the military.
And that's only if they just happened to be caught or someone's told them that they did it.
He done it.
Did he? Get him. Yeah. Other than that, 99% of the stuff they would have done would have been just do what you want.
Yeah, arguably. People would have defended their own homesteads, They would have had their own weapons. But there wouldn't have been an investigation.
Yeah, as far as I understand the justice system at the time, is if you ended up in court, it was basically people accuse you, and then other people have to stand as character witness. There's no evidence or anything. It's just, I say he did it, and these people say he didn't, and I trust those people more than those people, therefore he gets off. Yeah. He's a nice bloke, he never done it. He was never there when it didn't happen.
It was illegal for a defendant to have legal representation at the time. You couldn't. It was literally just witnesses. One group of witnesses' word against the other.
Okay, that's just bizarre, isn't it? I mean, what thousands of years of just you can do what you want, basically, can't you? Unless someone says he did it and someone else agrees.
Yeah,
and then you're dead. But the up until I don't know, 200 years ago, there were effectively no form of law or police.
Yeah, well,
it just must have been horrendous.
I suppose. I mean, can only
or brilliant.
Yeah, depending on your perspective.
Which side of the blue line you're on.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine it was basically mob justice. If everyone knows you're a criminal, they'll gang up on you, and then you have the military, and then you have finally some form of police. Community justice. So the Essex Gang, they kind of broke up as members were slowly captured and executed. John Wheeler, who was only 15, he gave a description of Turpin. He was freed for turning on the others.
Oh, yeah.
He gave a description of a tall, fresh-coloured man, very much marked with the smallpox.
Wow, okay.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Spots, is that true? Or?
Yeah, pocked face.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't look anything like Richard O'Sullivan.
No. Handsome, sideburns man, still alive, by the way. He wasn't hanged.
And Mary Brazier, the only woman of the group who was acted as a fence, she was transported to the 13 colonies, or we would know them today as the United States.
Was that get out to the 13 colonies and that's it? Meaning go away? Meaning she's probably, depending on where they sent her, she would have thought, this is brilliant.
No, it would have been a penal servitude.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. So it was serving time somewhere else.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Go to Florida.
Go and spend 2 weeks in with Disney World. And
take you backwards on a horse into the desert.
Disney World.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was actually to serve a bit of crack some rocks, as opposed to...
Well, it would have been probably agriculture, like digging fields and raising crops, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So Turpin's now, he strikes out on his own, goes into what he's known for, which is highway robbery, but literally for like a few months. Stand and deliver! He's known as Turpin the Butcher.
Right, okay. Again, highwaymaning must have been so, if you had, decided that you're going to do it, must have been just so easy. Unless there was come back from, I don't know, they were armed as well or something. But it must have been so easy to just pick off just everyone, basically.
Well, they might have been armed, the carriages.
Well, the driver of a coach would have been carrying a blunderbuss.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. And it will cut you in half. There's two ways about it. It'll take a chunk out of you the size of your head. So if the coach driver just manages to pull off one shot at you, that's it as the end of your highway career.
So they definitely would have been armed with, I'm talking about all of them, armed with something like that, would they?
Yeah, most of the time.
Just because basically it's just a bloke with a coach and a load of horses, which are all valuable.
It'd be a normal weapon for a rider to carry on the front of a coach.
All right, perhaps I'm making it out to be shooting fish in a barrel, but even so, I bet they did very well.
And these are single-shot weapons. So if you jump out on a coach, let's say you manage to get your pistol pointed at the driver before he raises his blunderbuss.
Yep.
And he's not willing to take the gamble that you're not going to fire before he gets it up.
If
you've
miss,
only got one shot out of that. That's it.
Meaning what? It just takes forever to reload.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Because you've got to pour powder into it. You've got to get a little swad of cotton down the end.
Okay.
You've
got to make it count, basically.
Yeah. You basically make the shot in the barrel before you fire it. It's not like just sticking a bullet in even.
Give me a minute.
Not like a
all right. Perhaps I'm.
The driver may well have a couple of pistols on him as well.
Sure.
Just in case,
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
But the passengers in the coach might be armed as well. You don't know when you lean in the carriage window, you might get your head blown off. Just for clarity, a blunderbuss is like basically a shotgun with a flared barrel. It's got a bell on. It looks like a trombone,
Yes, it does, doesn't it? And when it fires, it goes. Yeah. And that's the most deadly thing about it, apart from the bullets. Has it got a load of bullets in it?
Basically, it spreads the buckshot out as far a wide an arc as possible.
So you could how many bullets? I mean, could they all miss you?
Unlikely.
Right. So there's
you have to fire it in response to someone shouting, "Let him have it" on top of a sweet shop for it to miss you.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know because it really has got a wide end bit, hasn't it? meaning there's no aim or much direction.
Yeah, exactly. It's a close quarter weapon, so it would literally be for people who aren't very good shots.
Oh, okay.
It's a reasonable grouping though. You can see people shoot them online, and it's quite a grouping from about sort of 4 or 6 meters. If you shoot a melon, they're clustered about the shape of the melon. So it will just obliterate a melon from about 4 or 6 metres away, which is fairly...
Right, okay. When have you been watching that?
YouTube gives you these things.
Well, I'm sure it does, but...
I don't know what I typed in for it to suggest. Watch this melon being blown up with a blunderbuss.
Obliterated melons.
Man shoots over melons.
Man empties load over melons.
No, stop messing about.
Something I could tell you about the flintlock / matchlock system is phrases come from firing those weapons. So there's flash in the pan.
Flash in the pan.
So which is where the pan is where you would load your priming gunpowder.
Oh right.
And the flash in the pan occurs when you fire the weapon, but lights the gunpowder in the pan, causing a flash, but doesn't actually follow through and light the gunpowder in the barrel, so nothing happens.
The pan is the little cup that holds the powder on the side of the...
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah, fine.
So basically you get a moment of bright light and activity, and then...
A flash in
nothing,
the pan, right.
i.e., the modern day interpretation of it's a flash in the pan, like a short-lived fad.
Yes. Yeah, I obviously know the modern bit. I would never have known that. What are the other gun-based facts?
There's one of the things that is really hard to conceive now is that these guns were fired with a literal. I call them a flintlock because it's fired with a literal piece of flint hitting a piece of steel and hoping a spark comes off and hits the powder.
And then there's a matchlock, which is basically it has a match.
Exactly, yeah.
It's basically a lit piece of like a fuse, where the flint would have been mounted, and it's basically a slow burning fuse, and the fuse lights the gunpowder as opposed to the striking of a flint. Either way, it's a spark. And then you've got the other term, which is going off half cocked.
Yes, which is the same kind of analogy, is it? It didn't work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, going off half cocked is if you pull the lock back once and half cock it so that you can prime the pan with the gunpowder, and then when you're ready to fire, you fully cock it, you pull it back a second.
The second time. Yeah.
And then it strikes with enough force to light the gunpowder. If you go off half cocked, obviously it hasn't got enough force to make a spark.
Yeah,
so.
Right.
And that's, so if you go off half cocked, it means you're unprepared. You're not ready.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And you might not get a spark, or
a fella could get an education just listening to this guy.
And of course, you can't wave these things around like a weapon because it's just loose powder and it'll fall out the side.
Yeah, well, you'd load it into the pan, and the pan would have a lid that you would close.
So there's no diving in slow motion as you do a somersault over a Ford Cortina,
rolling over the front of your horse.
Okay. So that, right.
So you just better hope it's not raining or windy,
If it's raining, yes. Is that the end of that?
Yeah, no firing guns they're running around in the rain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, here's a thought. How about a little gunbrella?
A gunbrella?
A gunbrella. I would have invented one of them.
Patent pending.
Like a cocktail.
A little Chinese cocktail umbrella.
Cocktail stick. Yeah. No, what's it called? Cocktail umbrella.
Parasol.
That is the right size, surely, is it? To cover the pan. Why didn't
I'd say that was perfect. If only you were born over 200 years ago. For all our sakes.
When we've invented time travel,
you're going to use it to do that. Why not? That's a surefire time travelling money making scheme. So Turpin the Butcher, then, he would ride around Essex and West London, Putney, Barnes, Hounslow, that sort of area.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I knew, I knew. I'd heard about the Hounslow Heath thing, but I must admit, I kind of put it down to, I don't know, just someone thinking of a place to put the TV show.
Yeah.
Meaning, let's put it here. But that's true, is it, the Hounslow Heath thing?
Yeah.
What was the other one you said? Putney Common.
Putney, Barnes.
Barnes Common, yeah, I know all those. Wow.
But at that time, they weren't Barnes Common and Hounslow Heath. It was just the land.
Yes, sorry.
It was just one big piece of land called.
Is
England.
It the bit between the Barnes High Street and the King's Road, between Starbucks and.
So Turpin was riding with a guy named Matthew King. He's sometimes referred to as Tom King. Mm-hmm. Richard Bays gave an account whereby King fired a shot at Bays, but there was a flash in the pan, and the weapon didn't discharge. Bays grabbed hold of him, and King called out for Turpin to shoot, and Turpin apparently fired, hitting King. King cursed him as a coward, and Turpin rode away.
Get off that horse! You filthy cunt!
Yes.
King died of his wound. So Turpin fled on horseback to evade arrest.
Right.
Yeah, I think according to the court paper at the time, he shot King in the thigh.
Yeah, apparently so. The only real account is that of Bays.
Sorry, so that little incident you were talking about, did that lead to... Are we talking about that because it led to his arrest?
Well, no, he fled on horseback. We
love a good flea.
So, he fled. Not only the scene, but the whole profession. For some reason. I mean, I'm sure he could have just gone a couple of miles down the road and no one would have ever heard of him and carried on as normal, but he chose not to.
Yeah, well, he fled to Epping Forest, and Thomas Morris, his servant, saw him.
I've seen him.
And tried to capture him.
Okay.
But Turpin shot Morris, killed him.
Okay. The end of that, then.
What a way to hide.
And he escaped.
Yeah.
Am I right in understanding that the penalty for horse thievery was also death?
Yeah.
So at the point that he shot that guy, there's no real increase in the level of his criminality. It's not like had he been caught at that point, he would have just been spanked on the bottom and sent on his way.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, it was already well known for burglary and rape and horse thievery, which all carried death sentences.
We've talked about it before. You know, you hang a person for murder, or you hang them for 100 murders. You know,
right?
If you've already committed crimes that have a death sentence attached, then it doesn't matter what you do after that. You might as well be hanged for a sheep as a lamb.
Okay. Incremental.
And after the murder, a reward went out for Turpin's capture in the amount of £200,
right,
which in current equivalent is £30,000.
That's all right.
And not just 200 English pounds, but also a free pardon.
A free pardon?
Wow, okay.
Anyone who captured and turned in.
Regardless of what they'd done.
So get out of jail free card, pretty good.
Wow.
It's worth mentioning that £200, the reward, at the time, far from the £30,000 equivalent in today's money, at the time that actually would have been about 7 or 8 years' income for a labourer.
And for Ruth.
That's 7 or 8 years in that money.
He's moved on. He's moved to Brough, a town in Yorkshire, using the alias John Palmer.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, what he was doing, he was trading. He was posing as a legitimate horse trader, but effectively he was stealing horses from Lincolnshire and then selling them, trading them at market in Yorkshire.
So it's not very far, is it? I mean, that's it's a day's horse ride. So he's basically
nicking
a horse, getting on it, riding it away, and the following morning taking it to market.
Sure, yeah. It'd be easy, wouldn't it?
You'd want to take it if you've got a stolen car. I'm not going to steal it in Kingston and sell it in Richmond, just 10 miles away.
No.
It doesn't sound like very smart thievery,
I tell you what I'd do if I was him.
Yeah.
I'd steal the most
recognisable
normal-looking horse. Meaning, say horses.
Not a pantomime.
Do you think horses are mainly brown? I'd steal a brown.
Definitely all the brown ones.
I would say they're mainly brown.
Yeah. All the brown
I
ones.
think they're mainly brown. I'm going to go out on a limb and say horses are mainly brown.
I love it. I'll put on a t-shirt.
Well, the white ones are only white when they're young.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, I would steal a brown one, or brown ones, because they're less just distinctive. They're just kind of... There's loads of brown horses. But, some of them look like...
It's like stealing a silver car. It'd just be easier to pass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know the horses that look like Frisian cows? They're kind of just black and white. Like, forget it. I'm not stealing one of them.
They've basically got a fingerprint.
Yeah, them, yeah. Yeah, what other ones are there? They're like grey horses. They're...
Greys, the dapples. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, I'd steal brown horses only. Just so you know.
Jed Lester, horse trader. We just do the brown ones.
Did that work then, his new-found business?
Well, yes and no. It went on for a while.
Okay. It's because he only stole brown horses.
Clearly they couldn't tell the brown horses apart, so he got away with it for a while. But ultimately he was arrested.
Oh, so it didn't.
So what happened was the 2nd of October 1738, so this is well over a year after the shooting of Morris. Palmer, while drunk, shot a gamecock.
Shot a gamecock?
Owned by a man named John Robinson.
How do you know that a cock is game?
It was standing proud.
Oh, I see what you mean, a fighting cock, right, yeah.
Blimey. He
Why?
shot one.
To eat it or something?
Because he was drunk and a dick.
Okay. Oh, sorry, yes, he was drunk and jumping around.
Everybody who's anybody drinks.
So he shot this gamecock belonging to Robinson. Robinson had a go at Turpin.
Making feet
He shot my cock. Turpin threatened to shoot Robinson as well.
Right, okay.
Yeah, never argue with a drunk man who shot your cock.
Yeah.
Presumably, he asked him to wait while he reloaded his pistol.
It'd be quite amusing to watch a drunk man trying to load a pistol.
God, yeah.
Be with you in a minute.
You wouldn't be able to keep it level.
Yeah,
It'd be like trying to get your bus pass out drunk at a bus stop, wouldn't it?
So he just took umbrage. I mean, I mean, you're not going to get... Are you going to get arrested for shooting a chicken? I mean... Yeah,
well, it's destruction of property, arguably, isn't it?
In his shop, if you shoot it, you bought it.
you shot my cock.
Yep.
So Turpin was taken before a justice of the peace.
Okay.
Again, he's under the name Palmer. He's deposed by the justice, and basically he gets to pay like a bail,
Okay.
or be bound over, which is he would be. You can pay for bail, or you can be imprisoned.
Yeah.
A bribe.
Turpin refused to pay, so he was held for the trial for the shooting of the gamecock in Beverley, the market town. So while the authorities made more inquiries about Palmer, they find that he's suspected of horse theft. So now they're going to bring charges of horse theft, and the Justice of the Peace decides that the case is now going to be too big, so he should go to York, the capital of the county, for the York Assizes. Again, he's offered opportunity to pay. He refuses to pay, so he's transferred to York Castle, where he's bound over to await trial at the York Assizes for horse theft.
Yep.
Then it gets weirder. Turpin wrote to his brother-in-law with the amazing name of Pumper Rivenel.
Pumper? What was the surname? Rivenel. Excellent.
Now, Pumper Rivenel
Pomper
is sent this letter,
Right.
and he sees that it has a stamp of the city of York. Not a stamp like we would know, like a lick and stick stamp, like a rubber stamp, or like I suppose it would have been a wax seal. So he gets this, it's come from York, and he's like, I don't know anyone in York. So Rivenel gets this letter from York, and he refuses to pay the postage. Because it's just, at the time, you didn't pay to send letters, you paid to receive them.
right.
Wow. So that's basically when spam was invented.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you wanted to really bugger someone up, you could just write a load of letters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, letters for everyone.
So at some point, someone made the absolutely obvious decision to reverse that method, and the sender pays.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, they're sending letters all over the country for nothing.
Yeah, you just say,
and then you deliver it, and they go, "Oh, I don't want
or I haven't got any money."
it." So there's all this paper going round and round. No one's paying for it until some genius said, "Yeah, why don't we do it the other way around?"
Yeah.
We've been going about this all wrong.
Yeah, it's a much more sensible business model.
So this letter that Pomper wouldn't pay for, it gets moved to Saffron Walden, which is like a hub where they're gathering all these letters. There's a guy there named James Smith. Turns out James Smith, while at school, taught Turpin how to write.
Okay, right.
Now, apparently, he recognised the handwriting.
Really?
So
I'm going to pay for this one.
Some writing.
Hang on a minute. I know this.
Yeah. So he recognised the scrawl, basically.
Well, James Smith went to York. He visited York Castle, and on the 23rd of February 1739, he went to his cell and identified Palmer as Turpin.
Because he saw him and said, correct.
Yeah, very much so. That's your man.
Blimey. Case blown wide open.
And £200. Thank you.
Oh, he did get it? Oh, well done. Just
Wow, 7 years' salary.
Yeah. And one of the few occasions that people actually get the reward. Yeah.
Just for recognising some... Oh, and going... Probably spending a week getting to York.
He also married one of Smith's father's maids.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Who did?
Turpin.
Presumably years before.
Yes. Turpin's wife, Elizabeth, was a maid.
Right.
Smith's father's maid.
Yeah, because he said in court, I knew his father and all his relations, and he married one of my father's maids.
So he knew him very well, is the point.
Yeah, knew him very well.
He was a good witness.
So on the 22nd of March 1739, the trial opens.
Yes, yeah.
Now he's under trial under the name Richard Turpin for horse theft.
So that was the main... So they knew two... They had the two... Well, one of them was alias and one of them his real name, but a massive list of crimes. Did that mean the horse theft was top, or... Because they started off with that?
The horse theft they were able to prove more or less with their prosecution witnesses.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
One of the interesting things about that is that when they read out the charges, they misstated the place and date of the crime for which he was charged.
Yeah.
Okay.
So technically, arguably, we would call a mistrial.
A horse theft which occurred in a different place whilst he was in prison.
Oh, I see. You mean that was the? It was true, but they got the dates wrong. Well, my point is they led with horse theft as opposed to murdering someone in Epping Forest.
Yeah, well, that was, with the gang.
Okay.
There's no witnesses to the Epping Forest event. It's difficult to prove. Not that there was a lot of evidence anyway.
Yep.
He argued that he was unprepared for his defence. There were no defence witnesses to call. They only had accusers, prosecution witnesses. But the judge was quite dismissive. He said, well, that's irrelevant because you knew when the assizes were going to be. It's up to you to make arrangements for your own defence. From from your jail cell.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't irrelevant, but anyway, he's just being judgy.
Just being judgmental.
Basically, he was judging him and judging the book by its cover, and basically thought he was guilty. Clearly, before they even started.
I wonder how much pressure he thought really that he was under, considering they wanted to send him to the other court to be tried, and he said, no, we're going to try him here. I just wonder, whether there's a bit of ego in that, and he wanted to be the guy that dealt with this and not pass it off onto senior courts.
I don't know. Does it work like that, where you get the kind of all-star case? It probably does, doesn't it? The big name case.
Yeah, there's going to be some sort of kudos, I guess. Slaps on the back over port and cigars.
Yeah.
For being the man who sent Turpin down.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We've talked about some short jury deliberations, but at the end of this trial, the jury didn't even leave the courtroom,
Oh. So they didn't confer, they didn't discuss. There was no.
They finished their argument, and then they all went.
Yeah, just literally. Yeah. They turned to one another.
Guilty.
Yeah, they all turned around, shrugged and nodded.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose the only other thing is that with hindsight and the fact that he confessed on the scaffold, is that they were right, but even so, that's a little bit quick, isn't it? Would they have had to have had would it have been 12 good men and true, or would it have just been all in agreement, or majority verdict, or
first come, first seated, I should think.
Well, there would have been all men, certainly. Yeah.
You could so rig a jury, meaning just put your people. You put 12 of your people in. Yeah. He definitely did it.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll pay him.
Exactly. Yeah. It would have been easy.
I mean, also they would have only have known from word of mouth and bill posters about the story of Dick Turpin. They would have only known what they'd seen and heard in posters. So when they come to, this is Dick Turpin, they go, oh yeah, I know all about him. I know everything he's done. Definitely guilty because I read it. Talk about media bias.
Don't believe everything you hear, son.
He had a lot of guests while he was in the cell. Gawkers came to visit him, but also people came to talk with him.
So not popular enough to get some defendants, witnesses.
So no one would stand up in court to say he's a decent chap, but they'd all want to come in and say,
hey,
hello.
Dickie.
Yeah.
So much so that the jailer sold drinks.
Good bloke.
He made over £100.
Which is, by your maths, 15,000.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's good, isn't it?
Mm.
He bought a new frock coat and shoes to appear before his public.
Have I focused too much on my boots and all my fame and my stretchy pants?
He hired 5 mourners to grieve for him.
Yeah. £5 and 10 shillings he spent on mourners.
Yeah, I've seen between £3 and £5.
He didn't have anyone. What about his wife and all that lot? I mean, I suppose they're turning their back on him, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, there's something that concerns me about paying mourners. And it's not just the ethical concerns of paying mourners. It's so you say, yeah, okay, give me 10 shillings and I'll come and cry for you. And you turn up and then you just stand there smiling. What? They're going to get a refund?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're not going to hire again, are they?
I suppose it's your last gig, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is your last gig, that's true. Yeah. It's your last 10 shillings.
Yeah. So he was made his way to the gallows and he bowed to the crowd. He climbed up to the scaffold, apparently confessing everything to the hangman. The hangman's name was Thomas Hadfield, and it was tradition at the time that a man would be pardoned if he took up the role of executioner. So Thomas Hadfield was actually a former highwayman.
Oh, I'm an expert.
Wow.
Do you want to hang Dick Turpin and we let you off? Yeah.
Right.
Maybe Turpin should have said, hey, yeah, all right, I am guilty. Who do you want me to hang?
Yeah.
He climbed the ladder to the scaffold. His head was put through the noose. And he jumped.
Yep.
And they say it took him about 5 minutes to die from strangulation. This is a short drop scaffold, not the long drop that we would know from the, no trapdoor.
Well, there was just one thing about the what do we call it? The gallows or the
Well, Mark called it the scaffold. Yeah.
scaffold? Yeah, scaffold.
Pink.
I think
The pink.
it was
The
called
pink.
at the
The
time
lily.
the
The
three-legged mare. The three-legged mare, which I thought was a rather interesting name for it.
The three-legged mare. Yeah, it's based on the gallows at Tyburn.
Is it?
Which is now Marble Arch in London.
There is indeed, yeah.
Ooh.
So rather than being like a Bunsen burner tripod that you would stand something on top of,
Yep.
so it's not, you weren't stood on the very top of it. You were just hanging from the beam rather than above it.
Yeah, so 3 legs joined in a triangle
Yeah,
at the top, and then a rope on each side.
yeah.
And then you would either be standing on the ground and be with the rope around your neck and be hoisted into
Crumbs.
position,
You'd be winched.
or
Yeah.
the short
Yeah.
drop where you, as in this case, where you would be up a ladder or on a wagon, and then that would be taken away
Wow.
to the cheers of the crowd.
It was a long time before Albert came along and made it a much better, more systematic,
Made it an art.
yeah, rather than half an hour of wriggling.
So he's executed, he's interred, but the story doesn't end there. His body was stolen from the grave.
Was it?
He rose again.
Why?
Yeah, probably for medical research.
Oh.
The authorities didn't really care. They turned a blind eye to that sort of thing, but the populace weren't happy, and the populace didn't like it. So the body was recovered by presumably a baying mob.
A mob?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there another kind?
Angry, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Seething mob. So that brings us around to Birkenhair style. All of that was going on with it all the time, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the mob recovered his body from whoever had dug it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Richard of... No, that's wrong, isn't it? Richard of York gave... No.
No, that's
I'm
Richard
getting my
III.
Richards mixed up.
King Richard.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They gave... It was all in vain. He didn't give much battle, though.
So then to the immortalisation of Richard Turpin.
Yes.
Kind of began with Richard Bayes, the man who tried to arrest Matthew King.
Yep.
In 1739, after Turpin's execution, he wrote The Genuine History of the Life of Richard Turpin.
Unlikely.
With the word genuine in the title, it was probably mostly fiction.
Really?
It seems to have been kind of hurried together to take advantage, So what we know of Turpin today, he's famous for the ride to York.
200-mile trip.
200 miles in under a day.
It was less than half a day. It was 11 hours.
M1, A1. Easy. Don't know what the issue is.
That was made up.
Really?
Downey Defoe wrote in 1727 about William Neveson, who was a highwayman.
Right.
He supposedly rode from Kent to York to establish an alibi in 1676.
Right.
Danny Defoe wrote about that, and he is a novelist.
Yeah.
Now, Harrison Ainsworth wrote the novel Rookwood in 1834, and he wrote that novel. It was basically about Dick Turpin, but he seems to have taken stories from what Defoe wrote and other people, and
Very clever.
put all those stories together into one
So
book.
it's just conflation of myth, really. I suppose.
Yeah. And that book, Rookwood, is where we get our understanding of Dick Turpin from. Tales of daring do from other writers, basically. An anthology, a compendium of other people's stories, and put Dick Turpin's name on them. For example, Ainsworth tells the story of Turpin riding with Claude Duval, who was a French aristocrat. It would have been a neat trick because Duval was executed in 1670, many years before Turpin was even born. So Duval was a French aristocrat. The story he's most famous for was that in the course of a robbery, he offered to return some of the money if the lady of the carriage agreed to dance the Carante.
Okay.
Excellent.
Which apparently she did, and he gave
What
some
a
back.
gentleman.
I mean, they still got robbed, the people who did a dance. But for some reason they thought, oh, he was nice, wasn't he?
I'm assuming that if he's aristocratic, it doesn't always mean so, but he probably had money of his own anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that he's more of a hobbyist highwayman than
He only robs his
a
own.
professional highwayman.
Posh people.
Well, that's the story, you know.
Yeah, okay.
And then through the mid-19th century, of course, after that, you got all the penny dreadfuls and what have you. And the story just became more and more romanticised. It kind of turned into this Robin Hood character.
It's funny, isn't it? How or why. I mean, by then it's total disassociation.
Yeah,
meaning
exactly.
it just doesn't matter, does it? It's just... they've turned it into a story and they're romanticising a story that is merely... I mean, it would obviously be written down, but mainly hearsay and that of legend. It's interesting, though, isn't it? How we know, well, I know nothing of his original crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're right. I mean, I don't think I've ever watched any form of documentary on him at all. It's just turned into kind of not fairy tale, but not far off.
But then the only thing that is remembered a bit about Dick Turpin is the fact that his name was Dick and Turpin. The rest of it is all made up. You have to dig hard to find what he was, you know.
If the character in Rookwood hadn't been called Dick Turpin, there would be no legend of Dick Turpin at all. If it'd been called under another name, a fictional name, we wouldn't even know about it. But because we called Dick Turpin, and Dick Turpin was a real person who existed.
He rode a horse. Dick Turpin on a horse. A horse-based kind of existence is the only other thing. But
yes, it's
but you're right.
Yeah. Three things we know about him. His name was Dick and Turpin, and it was a horse-based life.
And highwayman. Well, that's about it,
four things we know about him.
2, 3, no, 4.
And he was a butcher.
Five
skilled
things.
butcher.
Then after the writing, of course, you enter the movie age. So you've got movies and you've got plays going on. You've got Dick Turpin's Last Ride to York, 1906. You've got Dick Turpin's Ride to York in 1922. These are silent films. The only things that we would really be most aware of is the 1974 Carry On film, Carry On Dick.
Oh, Carry On Dick, yes, of course. Yes, of course. Who played Turpin in Carry On Dick?
Oh, Sid James, of course.
Was it? Okay. Do you know any of the other characters? I'm just checking that Charles Hawtrey was definitely robbed.
Waving a hanky, no less.
Yes. Oh, hello.
I remember Bernard Bresslaw being naked in it.
Who would have been a nobleman.
I don't know why that's a memory that I have of it. It is just a saucy romp.
A saucy romp.
There's no cartoon of him, is there? I'm sure there is.
There's a comic strip in Lookin' magazine.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
But it was based on the
But
TV
that was
series.
just drawings of...
Yeah. Lots of drawings
It
of
was
Richard
all
Turpin.
serious, wasn't it? It was all... Sorry, it was based on the TV series. Yeah, okay. But we all loved him in the end. Whoa there, Bess. I thought he would have said that. I guarantee he would have said that. Whoa there, Bess.
Well, he never had a horse named Bess.
So Richard O'Sullivan, the actor of what we are talking about, lives down the road. In fact, he lives near Rue.
That's true, he does live near me. He's 10 minutes walk away.
In the utterly brilliant, but also utterly bizarre, what would you call it?
Retirement home.
Yeah, that's better phrasing. Retirement home for, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's for comedy actors from the 70s, but I've got a feeling it's wider. It's just actors and actresses, which is I'm still convinced is like, apart from like military people, are there any other... I mean, you don't have a retirement home for bakers. It's very specific, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's run by the Royal Variety.
Yeah, it's entertainers, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Okay, so...
Yeah, so it's
I wonder if any connection to acting, meaning if you were worked on the lighting rig for...
Well, Bruce Forsyth's first wife was there. Penny Calvert, she stayed there.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say Anthea Redfern. I don't want it to be that way. I just want it to be 70s comedy actors, because they'll all be out trying to outdo each other in the kind of.
Can you imagine the breakfast table conversation?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And the clashes of ego that would go on.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely colossal egos just colliding.
Have you seen him? He saw when he was in Please Sir. Oh, you'd never. He was horrible at They'd all slag. I bet they all slag each other off.
Look, I mean, can you imagine Mick McManus, who's the he was the wrestler, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was the wrestler. Can you imagine him sitting down for breakfast with Captain Birdseye?
Now I can't think of anything else.
What do you mean? Why are you saying those ones?
John Hewer, who was Captain Birdseye, he was also resident there.
Oh, right. So those two were former... Oh, right. So that means it is a wider...
Absolutely, yeah.
So people in adverts, a comedy wrestler...
And, of course, famous DJ Alan Freeman.
Fluff.
He was there as well.
Wow.
Fluff
Freeman,
that's good.
Yeah. Well, he'll be determined to run the retirement home radio...
Americans may.
That's my dream dinner party.
They might recognise a name like Sir Norman Wisdom.
He was there, was he?
Yeah. But this is the trouble I'd find with him is when he starts shouting Mr. Grimsdale and falling over. Nurses would probably just ignore him.
Yeah.
He's just clowning.
He's having a turn.
Yeah, when he just gets up and walks into a wall and falls out, that's just Norman. he's just doing his act again.
I would have thought he'd sort himself out, but clearly not. Mick McManus would definitely not have been. Captain Birdseye, forget it. Yes, I have seen your fish fingers, mate.
Those are probably the best known former ones that I've mentioned, I think.
Yeah.
Although, Dame Thora Heard.
Really?
Yeah, Dame Thora Heard.
Wow. I've had a letter from Rita, from Keithley. Really? That's a big one, I'd say.
Yeah.
The songs of praise big in America?
Yeah, definitely got a dame and a sir.
Nicely anticlimactic. Let's end on that.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was I tried to find out more information on Mary Brazier because I thought there must be a story with her because she was, as you mentioned, the fence for the what were they called?
The Gregory
Gang. So I thought, well, there must be an interesting story about that. Unfortunately, there's very, very little known about her. But I did discover that her autograph came up for auction in 2008. I say autograph.
Oh, her mark, a cross.
It is sadly an X. She wasn't taught to write as Turpin was. Although Turpin's education was only 3 months. So he was either a very rapid learner or really not a very good writer.
How can you
made his writing easy to recognise?
How can you persuade that that's her autograph?
Someone wrote next to it. This is her autograph.
Exactly. That's what they did. Is she would write an X, and someone would write next to it, "This is the true, mark of Mary Brazier." But how would she know that that's what they'd written?
Right.
Yeah.
So that came up for auction in 2008. So someone has that in their private collection.
I mean, I can't imagine that went for much, but
well, it's a Dick Turpin memorabilia.
Yeah, for £3 10 shillings. That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've discussed over the course of this episode, just Google it or something. You can see daily true crime updates on our Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. You can email us or you can support the show with a PayPal donation. And links to all of those are on our website at truecrimediary.co.uk. Don't forget to send us a review or post one in your podcast service if you can, and all 5-star reviews will get a shout out on a future episode. Join us next time when we'll be similarly discussing and digressing on another event in true crime history. Until then, my thanks to Jed and Rue. My name's Mark, and we'll see you on the next date in our True Crime Diary.